This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Max and Mia podcast.
Hi there, I'm Mia, and this is my co-host, Max. We're so excited to have you with us today.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're listening while commuting, exercising, or just relaxing at home, we really appreciate you spending this time with us.
We know learning English can feel challenging at times, but every conversation you hear and every new word you discover is a step forward. You're doing great.
Absolutely. And speaking of progress, we have something really special prepared for today's episode. We're going to explore one of the most exciting topics in the world.
Travel. Yes, we're talking about adventures, destinations, and all those incredible experiences that make us want to pack our bags and explore the world.
Whether you're planning your next vacation, dreaming about visiting new places, or you're someone who loves hearing travel stories, this episode is perfect for you.
We'll be sharing 2 authentic conversations about travel. You'll hear natural English, everyday expressions, and lots of useful vocabulary that you can use in your own adventures.
And as always, I'll be sharing some practical tips, useful phrases, and insights throughout the episode to help you improve your English while learning about travel.
Plus, we'll analyze the conversations together so you can understand not just what people are saying, but also how they're saying it.
So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's embark on this English learning journey together.
Are you ready to discover the world through English? Let's get started.
All right, everyone. Before we dive into our first conversation, let's go over some key vocabulary that you'll hear. These aren't your typical travel words. We've chosen some really useful ones that will help you sound more natural when talking about your adventures.
Vocabulary preview.
I'll start with our first word, spontaneous. This means doing something without planning it beforehand, acting on impulse. For example, we made a spontaneous decision to visit the local market when we saw all the colorful fruits.
Perfect choice, Mia. I love that word because it captures the spirit of adventure. Let me add another example. My most memorable trip was completely spontaneous. I just saw a cheap flight and booked it that same day. Now my word is breathtaking. This describes something so beautiful or impressive that it almost takes your breath away.
Oh, that's such a powerful word. Like when you see an amazing sunset or a stunning view. Here's my example. The view from the mountaintop was absolutely breathtaking. I couldn't stop taking photos.
Exactly. And here's another example. The breathtaking architecture of the old cathedral left us speechless for several minutes. Okay, Mia, what's your next word?
My second word is overwhelming. This means something is so intense, or there's so much of it that it's hard to handle. For example, the busy streets of Tokyo felt overwhelming at first, but we got used to the crowds.
Great word. It's so useful for describing intense experiences. Here's my example. The overwhelming smell of spices in the market made me sneeze, but it was fascinating. My next word is authentic. This means genuine, real, or original, not fake or touristy.
I love that word. It's perfect for travel. For example, we found an authentic local restaurant where only locals eat. The food was incredible and so cheap.
Exactly. And here's another example. Instead of staying at a hotel, we chose authentic homestays to experience the real local culture. Now, our final word comes from you, Mia.
Right. My last word is stumble upon. This means to find something by accident or by chance. For example, we were walking around the old town when we stumbled upon a beautiful hidden garden.
What a fantastic phrase. It happens so often when traveling. Here's my example. While exploring the side streets, we stumbled upon a street festival that wasn't mentioned in any guidebook. And listeners, moments like that are what make travel so special. And words like spontaneous, breathtaking, overwhelming, authentic, and stumble upon will really help you understand our first conversation and express your own travel experiences more naturally.
Perfect. Now let's listen to our first conversation and see how these words are used in context.
Hey, Jake. I've been thinking we should do something spontaneous this weekend. I'm getting a bit bored with doing the same things all the time. We need a real adventure.
I'm totally up for that. What did you have in mind? Maybe we could drive somewhere we've never been before? I saw this article about hidden gems within driving distance.
Exactly. I was looking at this charming small town about 3 hours away. It's supposed to have breathtaking mountain views and lots of hiking trails. Plus, there's apparently this gorgeous lake where you can rent kayaks.
That sounds incredible. But honestly, planning a whole trip feels a bit overwhelming right now. We'd need to book accommodation, figure out activities, research restaurants, and it's already Wednesday.
Actually, that's what makes it exciting. We don't need to plan everything down to the minute. We could just pack our bags, throw some snacks in the car, and see what happens. Sometimes the best experiences come when you stumble upon something unexpected.
You know what? You're absolutely right. I remember our last spontaneous trip to the coast when we found that authentic little cafe hidden in the countryside. The elderly owner invited us to try her homemade pastries that weren't even on the menu. She told us stories about the town's history for hours.
See? That's exactly what I mean. Those authentic moments are what make traveling so special. You can't get that kind of genuine experience from a guidebook or travel website. Plus, smaller towns are usually less overwhelming than big cities. No crowds, no rushing around.
True. And the locals are often more welcoming and eager to share their favorite spots. Remember how that fisherman showed us the secret beach where hardly any tourists go?
Yes, and we would never have discovered that place if we had stuck to our original itinerary. That's the beauty of being flexible and open to surprises.
Okay, I'm completely convinced. Let's do it. Should we leave early Saturday morning? The mountain views will be breathtaking at sunrise, and we can grab breakfast at some local diner along the way.
Perfect. And if we stumble upon any interesting places during our drive, maybe a vintage store, a farmer's market, or a scenic overlook, we can always make unplanned stops. This is going to be such a refreshing change from our hectic week.
I can't wait. I'll pack my camera and hiking boots. Sometimes the most spontaneous decisions lead to the most memorable adventures. Who knows? We might even discover our new favorite weekend escape.
Exactly. Life's too short to always play it safe. Let's embrace the unknown and see where the road takes us. This weekend is going to be amazing.
Deal. No detailed schedules, no rigid plans. Just good company, beautiful scenery, and whatever surprises await us. I'm already feeling more excited about this weekend than I have in months.
All right, everyone, let's break down what we just heard. That was a perfect example of how English speakers naturally discuss travel plans. Did you notice how Emma and Jake used our vocabulary words? They weren't forced at all. They flowed naturally in the conversation.
Exactly. I loved how they used spontaneous several times, but in different ways, as an adjective and even as part of spontaneous decisions.
Great observation, Mia. That's exactly what native speakers do. They don't just use a word once and forget it. They play with it, repeat it, and make it part of the conversation's theme. Notice how Emma used spontaneous to describe both the weekend activity and their previous trip experiences. This repetition helps reinforce the main idea of their conversation.
And breathtaking appeared twice, once for the mountain views and once for the sunrise.
Perfect. That's called lexical cohesion, using related vocabulary to connect ideas throughout a conversation. Now let me share some practical travel tips based on what we heard, because Emma and Jake's situation is incredibly common. Many people want to travel but feel paralyzed by all the planning involved.
That's so true. I think many of our listeners can relate to that feeling.
Exactly. So here's my first tip, the 3-hour rule. If you're planning a spontaneous weekend trip, choose destinations within 3 hours of your home. This gives you tremendous flexibility. You can drive back easily if plans change. You don't need to book expensive flights, and you can pack light. Emma mentioned a 3-hour drive, which is perfect for a spontaneous getaway. You're close enough to feel secure, but far enough to have a real adventure.
That takes away a lot of the pressure, doesn't it?
Absolutely. My second tip is what I call the 50-50 planning method. Plan 50% of your trip and leave 50% open for spontaneous discoveries. Book your accommodation and maybe one main activity, but leave room for those stumble-upon moments we talked about. This way you're not completely lost, but you're not overscheduled either. Jake mentioned feeling overwhelmed by planning. This method solves that problem perfectly.
I love that balance. It gives you structure without being rigid.
Exactly. Now, here's something crucial that often happens when people travel: airport anxiety. Since our next conversation takes place at an airport, let me give you some essential tips that will save you stress and potentially money. First, always arrive 2 hours early for domestic flights and 3 hours for international ones. I know it sounds excessive, but trust me, you'll thank yourself later when there are long security lines, check-in delays, or unexpected baggage issues.
That's so true. I've seen people running through airports and it looks terrifying.
Right. And here's another crucial airport tip. Download your airline's app before you even leave home. You can check in online, get your boarding pass on your phone, choose your seats, and receive real-time updates about gate changes or delays. It's a complete game changer, especially if you're traveling to non-English speaking countries where communication might be challenging.
Technology really makes traveling so much easier nowadays.
Absolutely. But here's something many travelers forget. Pack smart, not hard. Instead of packing everything you might possibly need, pack versatile items. One jacket that works for both casual and dressy occasions, shoes that are comfortable for walking but nice enough for restaurants, and always pack 1 extra day's worth of clothes in your carry-on. If your luggage gets lost, you're not stuck wearing the same outfit for days.
That's really practical advice.
And speaking of practical, here's my airport navigation tip. Most airports have apps or websites with interactive maps. Download these before you travel. They show you where restaurants, shops, and gates are located. Some even tell you current wait times at security checkpoints. This is especially helpful in huge airports like Atlanta or Dubai, where you might need to take trains between terminals.
I had no idea about the wait times feature.
It's incredibly useful. Now, here's something that relates directly to Emma and Jake's conversation: the local connection strategy. They mentioned that fisherman who showed them a secret beach. This happens more often than you think. Locals love sharing their favorite spots with friendly travelers. Strike up conversations with taxi drivers, restaurant servers, or shop owners. Ask them, "Where do you go when you want to relax?" Or, "What's your favorite local restaurant?" You'll discover places that no guidebook mentions.
That's how you get those authentic experiences we talked about.
Exactly. And here's my final tip for today: the emergency contact protocol. Before any trip, especially spontaneous ones, share your itinerary with someone at home. Include hotel names, addresses, phone numbers, and even flight details. If something goes wrong, someone knows exactly where to find you. It's especially important for spontaneous trips where you might change plans on the go.
That's excellent advice, Max. Safety should always be a priority.
Thanks, Mia. And remember, everyone, traveling doesn't have to be scary or overwhelming. Start small with weekend trips, stay flexible with your plans, and embrace those unexpected moments. They often become your best memories. The key is finding that balance between planning and spontaneity that we heard Emma and Jake discussing.
Perfect advice to keep in mind as we move to our second conversation.
Now, before we dive into our second conversation, let's prepare you with some essential airport vocabulary. These words will help you navigate any airport situation with confidence, and they're definitely not the basic words you'll find in most textbooks.
Vocabulary preview.
Great. Let me start with hectic. This describes a situation that's very busy, stressful, and chaotic. For example, the airport was absolutely hectic during the holiday season. There were crowds everywhere and long lines at every counter.
Excellent choice, Mia. Airports can definitely be hectic places. Here's another example. Despite the hectic morning rush, we managed to catch our flight just in time. Now, my first word is boarding pass. Wait, just kidding. That's too obvious. Let me give you gate. No, that's basic too. Okay, my real word is accommodate. This means to provide space for someone or to help someone by changing plans or arrangements.
That's such a useful word. For example, the airline was able to accommodate our request for seats together, even though the flight was nearly full.
Perfect. And here's my example. The hotel couldn't accommodate our early check-in, so we had to wait until the afternoon. Now, Mia, what's your next word?
My second word is terminal. This refers to the main building at an airport where passengers check in and wait for flights. For example, we got confused because our departure was from Terminal 2, but we were waiting in Terminal 1.
That happens more often than you'd think. Here's another example. The new terminal has much better restaurants and shops than the old one. My second word is stand by. This means waiting for a seat on a flight that might become available at the last minute, usually if someone doesn't show up.
That's a really practical word. For example, we were on standby for the earlier flight, but unfortunately, it was completely full.
Exactly. And here's my example. If you're flexible with your travel times, flying standby can sometimes save you money. Now, what's your final word, Mia?
My last word is delayed. This means something is late or has been postponed. For example, our flight was delayed by 2 hours due to bad weather, so we had plenty of time to explore the airport shops.
Unfortunately, that's a word every traveler knows too well. Here's another example. The delayed departure meant we missed our connecting flight in Paris. And my final word is overhead bin. This is the compartment above your seat where you store your carry-on luggage during the flight.
That's so specific and useful. For example, the overhead bins were completely full, so the flight attendant had to check my bag at the gate.
Exactly. And here's my example. Make sure your bag fits in the overhead bin, or you might have to pay extra fees. These 5 words, hectic, accommodate, terminal, standby, delayed, and overhead bin, will help you understand our airport conversation and handle your own travel situations more confidently.
Perfect. These are exactly the kind of words you need when things don't go exactly as planned at the airport.
And let's be honest, when do things ever go exactly as planned at airports? Let's listen to our second conversation and hear these words in action.
Oh my goodness, Alex. This place is absolutely hectic today. I've never seen so many people in Terminal 3. The check-in lines are enormous and everyone looks stressed.
Tell me about it. I just spent 20 minutes trying to find a parking spot. The whole airport seems completely overwhelmed. Did you hear any announcements about our flight to Denver?
Actually, yes, that's the problem. Our flight has been delayed by at least 90 minutes due to mechanical issues. The gate agent said they're trying to accommodate all the passengers, but it's going to be a long wait.
Delayed again? This is the 3rd time this month. At least we're not in a huge rush today. Remember last time when we had that important meeting and barely made it?
Don't remind me. That was a nightmare. But you know what? Maybe this delay is actually a blessing in disguise. We can grab a proper lunch instead of rushing through security with those terrible airport sandwiches.
Good point. Plus, I noticed there's a new bookstore in this terminal that I wanted to check out. Speaking of delays, did you manage to get our seats changed? I really don't want to sit in the middle seat for 3 hours.
I tried, but the system couldn't accommodate our request online. The customer service representative said the flight is completely booked, but she put us on standby for better seats. If someone doesn't show up, we might get lucky.
Fingers crossed. I hate being stuck between 2 strangers, especially on longer flights. Oh, and remind me, did you pack your laptop in your carry-on? I want to make sure it fits in the overhead bin.
Yes, it's in my backpack. But honestly, I'm worried about finding space in the overhead bin. This flight seems packed, and you know how people bring oversized bags and stuff them wherever they can.
That's so frustrating. Airlines really need to enforce their carry-on size restrictions better. Last month, I had to gate check my bag because some guy brought what looked like a small suitcase and took up half the overhead bin.
I know exactly what you mean. And then they make you wait at baggage claim for your own bag that should have stayed with you. It's ridiculous.
Well, at least we have extra time today. Should we grab some coffee and find a quiet spot to wait? This terminal has that new cafe near gate B15 that everyone's been talking about.
Perfect idea. And maybe we can charge our phones while we wait. I noticed my battery is getting low, and who knows how long this delay will actually last. Sometimes 90 minutes turns into 3 hours.
Good thinking. I always bring a portable charger now after being stuck in Chicago for 6 hours with a dead phone. That was probably the most boring day of my life.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that disaster. At least nowadays, most airports have better Wi-Fi and charging stations. This terminal even has those comfortable reclining chairs near the windows.
True. And you know what? Despite all the chaos and delays, I actually don't mind airports that much anymore. There's something exciting about all the different destinations on the departure boards. Tokyo, London, Sao Paulo. Makes you dream about future adventures.
That's such a positive way to look at it. Plus, people watching at airports is incredible. You see families reuniting, business travelers rushing around, couples starting their honeymoons. Oh, it's like a small window into so many different stories.
Exactly. And who knows? Maybe this delay will lead to something unexpected. Remember when our flight to Seattle got canceled and we ended up spending an extra day there? We discovered that amazing seafood restaurant that became our favorite place.
You're absolutely right. Sometimes the best travel memories come from the unplanned moments. Let's go find that cafe and make the most of our extended airport adventure.
What a perfect example of how to handle airport stress with a positive attitude. Sarah and Alex just showed us exactly how native English speakers deal with travel complications. Let me break down some key language patterns we heard.
I loved how they turned a frustrating situation into something positive.
Exactly, Mia. That's actually a very important cultural aspect of English-speaking countries, finding the silver lining in difficult situations. Notice how Sarah called the delay a blessing in disguise, and Alex mentioned that their canceled Seattle flight led to discovering a great restaurant. This optimistic reframing is very common in English conversation.
And they used our vocabulary words so naturally throughout the conversation.
Absolutely. Let's analyze that. Hectic appeared right at the beginning to describe the airport atmosphere. Sarah said, "This place is absolutely hectic today." This is perfect usage because hectic often comes with intensifiers like absolutely, completely, or totally. Native speakers don't just say it's hectic, they emphasize it.
I noticed they used accommodate in different contexts too.
Great observation. Sarah used it when talking about the airline trying to accommodate passengers, and later when the system couldn't accommodate their seat request. This shows how versatile this word is. It can refer to both helping people and making space or adjustments. It's a very professional, polite word that you'll hear constantly in customer service situations.
The terminal usage was really clear too. They specified Terminal 3 and later mentioned this terminal.
Perfect. That's exactly how native speakers use it. They don't just say the terminal, they specify which one, or they say this terminal when they're physically there. It shows location awareness, which is crucial in airport conversations.
And standby was used in such a realistic way.
Yes. Sarah explained that they were put on standby for better seats if someone doesn't show up. This is the exact context where you'll hear standby most often. It's not just about waiting, it's about being ready to take someone else's place if they don't appear. Very specific airline terminology.
The delayed examples were unfortunately very realistic.
Ha! Too realistic, right? Notice how they used it both as a verb, our flight has been delayed, and as part of longer explanations. Alex mentioned this was the third time this month, which shows how delayed often appears in complaints or frustrated expressions. It's rarely just a simple statement.
And the overhead bin concern was so relatable.
Absolutely. Sarah expressed a very common worry: finding space in the overhead bin. This is a perfect example of how native speakers use this term in context. They don't just say overhead bin, they talk about space, about fitting things in, about other passengers taking up room. It's always part of a larger concern or complaint.
I loved how they handled the whole situation with humor and stories.
That's such an important point, Mia. Notice how they shared past experiences. Alex's 6-hour Chicago delay, their Seattle trip discovery. This is very typical in English conversations. When something goes wrong, people often share similar experiences to build connection and make the situation feel less frustrating. It's a bonding technique.
The conversation felt so natural and realistic.
Exactly. And that's because they used what I call complaint language, expressing frustration while staying positive. Phrases like, "Don't remind me," "That was a nightmare," and it's ridiculous. These are very common ways to express annoyance without being too negative. They validate the frustration while keeping the mood light.
Such valuable insights for our listeners.
Thanks, Mia. Remember, everyone, when travel doesn't go as planned, use it as an opportunity to practice your English and connect with fellow travelers. Some of the best conversations happen during delays and complications.
What an incredible journey we've taken together today. From spontaneous weekend getaways to navigating hectic airport situations, we've covered so much ground.
Absolutely, Mia. I hope everyone feels more confident about using travel vocabulary in real conversations. These aren't just words to memorize, they're tools for real-life situations.
That's such a valuable insight. I really enjoyed hearing Emma and Jake organizing their trip, and then Sarah and Alex dealing with travel issues. Both dialogues reminded us that journeys aren't always smooth, but they always bring chances for learning and meaningful connection.
Exactly. And remember, the vocabulary we learned today, words like spontaneous, breathtaking, accommodate, and stand by, these aren't just for travelers. You can use them in daily conversations to sound more natural and sophisticated.
Speaking of daily conversations, I want to remind our listeners that every interaction is practice. Whether you're talking to a hotel receptionist, asking for directions, or chatting with fellow passengers, you're improving your English skills.
That's fantastic advice, Mia. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Native speakers are usually very patient and helpful, especially when they see you're making an effort to communicate. Some of my best travel memories come from conversations that started with language mistakes.
That's so true. Plus, travel gives you incredible motivation to learn. When you need to ask for help or share an experience, you'll be amazed at how quickly you find the right words.
Absolutely. And here's a challenge for our listeners. Next time you travel anywhere, even if it's just to another part of your city, try to use at least 3 words from today's episode. Write them down, practice them, and then use them in real conversations.
I love that idea. And remember, you don't need to travel far to practice travel English. You can visit local tourist attractions, talk to visitors in your own city, or even plan imaginary trips using the vocabulary we've learned.
Great point. Imagination is a powerful learning tool. You can practice conversations about dream destinations, plan hypothetical itineraries, or even describe photos from places you'd love to visit.
Before we say goodbye, we want to thank you for joining us on this adventure. Learning English is a journey, just like traveling, and every episode gets you closer to your destination.
That's beautifully put, Mia. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. The world is full of incredible people and places waiting to be discovered.
And remember, we're here to help you every step of the way. Keep listening, keep learning, and most importantly, keep having fun with English.
Until next time, this has been Max.
And Mia. Safe travels, everyone, and happy learning.
Goodbye, everyone.